Hello dear viewers, welcome to our channel. It's very good to have you here. In this video, we'll be looking at 11 symptoms of bad or failing crankshaft position sensors. The crankshaft position sensor is an engine management device that monitors the position and rotational speed of the crankshaft and sends that information to the engine control unit so that the control unit can make appropriate adjustment based on operating conditions. The crankshaft speed and position are some of the most important parameters used in engine management calculations, and many engines cannot run if the crankshaft position sensor is not providing an accurate signal. For example, on this engine, you can see that there is a crankshaft position sensor mounted at the crankshaft pulley, and there are 4 signal generating parts for every cylinder. Driving with a failing crankshaft position sensor can be difficult and potentially dangerous. It could lead to long-term vehicle damage and expensive repairs, or even stop the car from working at all. Usually, a problematic crankshaft position sensor will produce any of the following 11 symptoms that alert the driver of a potential problem that should be serviced. Number 1. Check engine light comes on. The most common symptom of a bad crankshaft position sensor is check engine light. If the computer detects a problem with the crankshaft position sensor signal, it will activate the check engine light to alert the driver of the problem. If you happen to have check engine light illuminated, have the computer scan for a trouble code. Number 2. Trouble starting your engine. The other most common symptom associated with a bad or failing crankshaft position sensor is difficulty starting the vehicle. The crankshaft position sensor monitors the position and speed of the crankshaft and other parameters that play an important role when starting the engine. If the crankshaft position sensor is having a problem, the vehicle may have intermittent starting issues, or it may not start at all. If your defective crankshaft position sensor is extremely out of synchronization, you might have trouble getting your vehicle started. Furthermore, you might have difficulty keeping it started. Number 3. Engine stalling or intermittent stalling. Well, you may be driving along one day and all of a sudden your engine suddenly stops running. This is called engine stalling. And it can happen quite frequently when you have a bad crankshaft position sensor. If you don't replace the sensor soon, your engine will eventually stop working altogether. If the crankshaft position sensor or its wiring have any issues, it can cause the crankshaft signal to be cut off while the engine is running, which can cause the engine to stall. This is usually a sign of wiring problem. However, a bad crankshaft position sensor can also produce similar symptoms. The fourth symptom of a bad or failing crankshaft position sensor is hesitation when acceleration, or sometimes you might face uneven acceleration. When you step on the gas pedal to accelerate the vehicle, the engine control unit is supposed to receive that information about the cylinder position. But if you have a bad crankshaft position sensor, there will be a delay in the time it takes for the engine control unit to receive this information. That means each time you step on the gas pedal, there will be hesitation in the acceleration instead of an immediate response. With inaccurate input coming from the crankshaft position sensor, the engine control unit can't make the adjustment to spark timing and fuel injection as the engine speed is increasing. Slow or uneven acceleration can result from lack of accuracy and make it difficult to maintain constant speed. Number 5. Engine misfires. Should you feel or hear a brief stutter in the engine, it might be a sign of misfiring cylinders from a bad crankshaft position sensor. A failing crankshaft position sensor cannot provide the right information about piston positioning in the engine, causing a cylinder to misfire. This could also occur from faulty spark plug timing. But if the spark plugs are okay, then the crankshaft position sensor is likely the source of the misfire. The sixth symptom of a bad crankshaft position sensor is excessive engine vibration. If your engine has a faulty crankshaft position sensor, then it isn't optimizing any performance. Even worse, it might be utilizing incorrect reading to determine fuel and ignition timing. If the electronic control unit does not time things correctly, then you are in for a bumpy ride. Even worse, the problem is only going to get worse until you fix it, and it's only a matter of time until further damage occurs. Number 7. Rough idle. Another sign of a crankshaft position sensor problem is rough idling. While idling at red light or otherwise stopped, you may notice the engine grinding or vibrating. When this happens, it means the sensor is not monitoring the crankshaft position, leading to vibrations that can affect overall engine power. The shaking can also interfere with the engine tracking or mileage. Any out of ordinary vibration that takes place at idle should be inspected, and it should be checked to see if the crankshaft position sensor is causing this problem. As previously mentioned, the number 8 symptom of a bad crankshaft position sensor is reduced gas mileage. Lacking accurate timing information from crankshaft position sensor, fuel injectors won't pump gas into the engine efficiently. The engine will use more gas than it needs on short and long drives, reducing overall fuel economy. And the ninth problem is you will have overall weak engine performance. As we have mentioned previously, the purpose of the crankshaft position sensor is to measure the position of the crankshaft. It might sound redundant, but this is a very critical measurement. The crankshaft position sensor sends this measurement to the electronic control unit, which uses them to optimize your engine's performance, your engine's timing. Now, if there is a problem with the crankshaft position sensor, and if the ECM happen to be fed with wrong information, soon when the ECU realizes that, it will revert itself to default values. Now, when default values are being used by the electronic control unit, these values keep the engine running, but they will not be well performing. You will likely notice various performance issues. However, there is also another case. If the ECM does not realize that the crankshaft position sensor had failed, and if it is keep on using that wrong information, now the engine will tend to optimize performance to inaccurate readings. This can quickly lead to more damage and expensive repairs. Now, whether it is a default value that the ECU is using, or whether the ECU is using wrong values entirely, anything less than optimal timing is going to reduce your overall engine performance. Top speed and acceleration are the two most significant areas that you are going to see reduction in performance. So, if you have an overall performance reduction, if you have some moment of hesitation, if you have some irregularities in running, if you have less response, then more probably there is a problem at the crankshaft position sensor. And the other symptom of a bad crankshaft position sensor is number 10, backfiring. Especially if the ignition timing is to be controlled by the electronic control unit, and if that electronic control unit is being fed by incorrectly reporting crankshaft position sensor, the ignition timing will be shifted from the correct value, and that will lead to backfiring. If a spark is provided at the wrong time, that will lead to backfiring. So the number 10 symptom is backfiring. And finally, the 11th symptom of a bad crankshaft position sensor, which will gradually lead to engine overheating. If, for example, the ignition timing, like we have said previously, is controlled by the electronic control unit, and if that electronic control unit is being fed with the wrong information and tend to retard the ignition timing, that will cause maximum temperature to be exposed to large surface of engine components inside the cylinder, and that will lead to engine overheating. So these are 11 symptoms indicating that the crankshaft position sensor is problematic. So if you happen to have any of these issues related to crankshaft position sensor, please have the crankshaft position sensor checked. Well, the crankshaft position sensor can damage over time due to overheating, or it can be damaged due to some mechanical problem on the circuit itself. So whatever the information that is being fed to the ECU, if there is a problem with the crankshaft position sensor, that will cause reduction in engine performance. It may even lead to hazardous situation. For example, if you are running at high speed and suddenly your engine hesitates, if you are being followed by vehicles that are running at high speed and your engine hesitates to accelerate, that can be a very risky situation. So get it fixed as soon as possible. Well, dear viewers, that is all we have for you in this presentation. We have looked at 11 symptoms of bad or failing crankshaft position sensor. If you like this video, smash the like button. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notification so that you'll be notified whenever we come up with another video. Till then, stay safe.